I have no idea where I was going with that musical idea. It sounded cool at first, though. My fingers are healed. Hell yeah.
Hey, hell yeah.
Okay, we're past the YouTube censors. Fucking welcome to the Schmoes show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the infamous Orion, and it's been a bit of a break.
I'm Kyril, and I'm also a Schmo. Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a little bit of a Easter, if you would like to call it that.
Yeah.
I sure hope there wasn't any big important world news that we missed out on while on break.
I'm sure nothing bad has happened ever and never will happen again.
Like, you know, nothing like ironically Easter themed would have happened during our break.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the Pope died.
No. Some guy named Jorge died, but I don't know about the Pope.
Yeah.
Jesus.
For Francis? That sounds like a made-up name.
Francis? You mean Frank, right? Francois?
Frank. Of course. Frank. Who could forget Frank?
Damn, Frank. We lost a real one.
In seriousness, though,
yeah.
You know who's making the most fucking money off of the Pope dying?
I'm scared. Probably the producers of Conclave, but go on.
Oh, I actually don't know if this is just in this one, but I was going to say people who run Amazon Prime, because they had Conclave up to stream like the day after the Pope passed away.
Dude, I got a whole bunch of ads about Conclave the day the Pope died.
Yeah, super funny, because I saw Conclave when it was in theaters. I made my mom go with me to watch it the second time that I went because I knew she would really, really enjoy it, and she did. Yeah. And with Mother's Day coming up, Pope passed away. My mom really wanted to show it to my dad last weekend with the Pope, fucking dying because he hadn't seen it yet. And she is, I love her, but she is so cheap sometimes to the most frustrating degrees where like she doesn't like to buy things. And she finally got to the point where I think I maybe bullied her enough where she was going to buy it on Prime just so that they could watch it together. And my dad had to be like, well, I actually already bought it for you on DVD for Mother's Day, so...
That's funny.
Which was very fun.
That's good.
So they got to watch it.
Shout outs to your dad. He's a real one.
Yeah. He ain't perfect, but he got it right that time.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm upset. I really am. I liked Francis a lot. I felt like it was really refreshing. Okay, so like, can I go into my full thoughts about the papacy of Francis?
Please.
Francis, these last few years, has felt like one of the last, and I think this is a really fucking disingenuous way of saying it, but it's how I feel about it. So, if you don't like how I phrase this, don't worry, I know you're not going to like it if I phrase it like this. It feels like one of the last holdovers of the Obama era of like overly optimistic progressivism. Because Francis, he did a lot of things I never expected a pope to do. Yeah. And for that, he will always be a breath of fresh air and probably one of my favorite popes. Can't really say I've ranked the popes. We should do a pope ranking, actually.
We should do a pope ranking. There's a lot of them.
There's a ton of those guys.
That would be interesting.
He's like Doctor Who for people who like wafers. No. So it felt like with Francis dying, we were kind of finally past that overly optimistic progressivism period in our lives. And with Donnie in charge, and the way Donnie's been lately, It was kind of it just kind of felt icky,
Yeah, definitely. It is very telling how conservative politics have gone so mask off recently that the Catholic Church looks good in comparison, right?
Yeah.
Because the Catholic Church still has a lot of problems, a lot of systemic problems, but it is definitely true that Francis has been a welcome breath of fresh air in bringing the church into, the sort of, 21st century in terms of progressivism, as far as, the Catholic Church could be. Yeah,
I think he'll be remembered well. Yeah, sorry.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And it is encouraging that he appointed a very large number of the cardinals that are currently active that will be electing the next pope.
That's awesome.
Something like 80%. A huge number. Which isn't the most surprising, given that, the Catholic Church tends to have people be appointed to these positions at very old ages, so they tend to die a lot because they're old to start with. But yeah, gotta hope that they don't backslide too much. And even in, like, there's obvious things, right, with LGBTQ rights and abortion and things like that, where the Catholic Church hasn't, upended anything, but has been much more open and compassionate about those kinds of topics, as well as situations like Gaza. Francis was very outspoken about his wanting there to be a ceasefire because the dude doesn't want people to be hurting. He genuinely gives a shit about people. Gave a shit about people. But there's a lot of really fascinating things that he spoke on internally, like genuine theological debate kind of questions that he weighed in on as the voice of God, that will have ramifications probably for a very long time in the Catholic Church, because they're kind of the boring things, right? They're not as flashy as abortion. There's a clip that was going around in the wake of his death highlighting a moment that he had like 4 or 5 years ago, where he was speaking with a child who was baptized and was a Catholic, but who his father was not baptized and was very much not in the church. And this child, who was like 8 years old, was asking the question of, because his father passed away.
Yeah.
And he was asking the question of, like, does my dad get to go to heaven even though he wasn't a Catholic? And Francis basically posed the question to this big crowd of people of, like, talking about this child's father's story. It was like, basically, is this person a good man? Do you think this person is a good man even though he was not officially baptized a Catholic? And overwhelmingly, everyone's like, of course he is. It's just like, well, then what do you think God would think about him? It's stuff like that that really highlights the change in perspective that Francis brought, just as much as a policy change to the Catholic Church over the last decade.
I agree. No, I think Pope Francis was kind of too good for us in a way.
Yeah.
He is, I don't want to use this terminology, but like, I've been going through like my own little religious crisis throughout the years, and just trying to identify what I think is my beliefs and whatnot. I think I put myself more like Orthodox nowadays, like Orthodox Christianity. But like, even from like that standpoint, I should hate Catholics. But that man embodies so many ideals. I cannot hate him.
And I think that is the best thing to aspire to, right? Is to be so genuine in your desire to have people be, healthy and well, that even if you disagree on the the fine details, that you can respect them from coming from a place of being genuine.
Oh, totally. Like, I feel in a weird way they kind of let a Christian run the Catholic Church, and holy shit, look what happened. It's just nice to see someone who actually was genuine for once.
Yeah.
And I hope the next pope can live up to the standard Francis set.
Definitely.
So why did JD Vance kill that bastard?
Why did JD Vance kill the Pope? So yeah, that's the other side of this, is that 2 days, what is it? Two days before the Pope's death, JD Vance arrived at the Vatican in what was supposed to be his meeting with the Pope. However, at that first point, the Pope basically told him to come back as a better person and sent a cardinal to lecture him in his stead.
So good.
Which was honestly probably partly because he was not healthy enough to see somebody at that point. But
totally. Yeah, it makes sense retrospect, but
yeah, it was very funny all the same. And then the Pope did actually speak to Vance later and gave him a bit of a dressing down at that point as well. Went out and did his Easter Pope Mobile tour, gave a quick visit, and not long after passed away the day after Easter. But yeah, I believe, I'd have to double check this to make sure, but as far as we know, I believe JD Vance was the last like proper visitor that the Pope had before he died. And if nothing else, that is very funny.
It is absolutely hilarious. I love the idea that JD is kind of afraid that Francis is bad talking him to God right now. Like he's just hiding under his desk, waiting to be smitten. There we go. Just saying, JD's been real fucking quiet since the Pope died.
Yeah, well, Vance has been on such a terrible couple of weeks here. He had his Greenland thing that went terrible. I don't know the full details of it, but apparently he did something at his college with some trophy, and the trophy broke. And now he's meeting the Pope, and the Pope fucking dies. The dude's batting like 0 for 3, and I guess his next big visit is something in China. Though, as far as I know, basically every Chinese official that has been asked about, like, is there anything planned for negotiating on the tariffs, has emphatically said no. So maybe that's a lie too. Who knows?
Oh my God. What a great time to be JD Vance.
Yeah.
JD, if you want to come to the podcast, we'll throw you a couple softbone questions before we get really shitty with you. So if you want like a partial W, please come on. I'm being genuine too.
Tickle the balls before you punch them.
Yeah, like JD, like I don't respect you enough to let you like voice a couple lines.
I won't, but I'll be quiet enough so you don't leave right away.
You see, this is why we work, you know? He's I'm tolerant cop, and he's what title do you give your cop?
I don't even know.
Oh shit, dude. Okay. Did you know they did a giant true crime documentary up here in Grand Rapids?
I think so.
So I've been watching that like as it comes out every week.
Yeah.
It blows my mind to see cameras in places I go to like regularly. I don't like it.
Well, so here's the thing. Did you know that they did one in Battle Creek?
No fucking way.
Yeah.
What a place to do one.
It was literally called Battle Creek. I think it had one season. Maybe it had more than one season. Apparently it has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I genuinely don't know.
Oh my God.
I didn't think it was that good, but one of the leads was the what the hell is it? He plays in the insurance ads, the like chaos guy.
No way.
Yeah, he was one of the leads in it.
Oh,
It was like the first real TV show that he'd done in a really long time, and this is what he did. Dean Winters.
Oh, you're talking about like an actual show. I'm talking about a true crime documentary. Oh, my bad.
No, this was an actual TV show, but it was called Battle Creek, and it was filmed in Battle Creek. So I to that point of like seeing places, being like, wait a minute, I've walked there. What the hell is going on? I get that part of it.
We talked about this because yeah, freaking Breaking Bad's Vince Gilligan created that show.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it only got one season. That's fine with me. I can.
Which is wild because apparently it did really well critically.
It's Vince Gilligan. He can do no wrong. Anyway, so yeah, first episode is probably the only one I actually enjoyed so far. The rest of it is like kind of propaganda-esque, like GRPD. I want to like you guys, trust me, because you're the ones with the guns. But I think the first episode was the best. It all revolved around a fucking teenage fight club that happens up here, and the funny thing is, back when I was managing a grocery store, a lot of the kids I fucking had working for me at the store, like part-time, were in this fucking fight club. So I did the fucking Leonardo DiCaprio, like, pointing at the TV. I recognized that thing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild to know how adjacent to a main plot point in a true crime documentary that got. Fuck, dude. Michigan winning. We're getting all over the TV. Yeah. So, what else do we have to talk about today? We feel like we've had a lot. I feel like the Pope dying may have overshadowed a lot of things.
Definitely did. There's a lot of stuff that happened that we're just not going to talk about because it doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah.
Old news and all of that, but there are a couple of things that I want to bring up. One is that, broadly speaking, Hegseth continues to be an embarrassment on every possible level imaginable. We've had news stories coming out these last many weeks, both that he's on the verge of being fired, that people below him are going to be fired over the Signalgate stuff, that Biden is somehow responsible.
Yo,
and
tell me how
sort of like
responsible. I need a good story.
I genuinely don't know. I saw somebody mention it and I was just like, yeah, that's dumb enough that I believe that they were talking about it, but it's also dumb enough that I don't care.
Dude, like, okay, have you ever like gone far enough into those like fucking conspiracy theories just to try and like gauge their thought process?
A couple times, yeah.
I've learned the language because it always starts with like them saying the very basic shit.
Yeah.
And then like you know how we're smart guys, right? And how smart guys know things, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you know how water is wet? You know who else is wet? Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You know, they just always...
It does kind of feel like that.
Yeah. It's a little technique I actually learned on the phones at Farmers.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can get someone to say yes to you a few times, it's like a salesman technique. If you say yes to someone like 3 times, you're more likely to agree with them throughout the course of the conversation. So you give them like the small ball yes or no's to get that pattern starting, and then you start going on your spiel.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
A consistent theme that I've seen through the conspiracies that I've looked into, and it's a recurring pattern in a lot of stuff, is people who usually are knowledgeable or educated on a particular topic.
Yeah.
And are like genuinely very smart in that regard, or very experienced or very knowledgeable in a specific field or practice. And then because of that, think that they are then smart or informed in everything, and that their opinion on everything is equally valid as anybody else because they're smart at one thing. And if they're smart at one thing, they have to be smart at everything.
Yes, dude. Obviously. It's the fucking Jordan Peterson effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Signal is Biden related. Got that down.
Yep. Yep. Of course. The other part of it that we've learned this week is that Hegseth, at his order, had installed in his office at the Pentagon what is known as a dirty internet connection, which is one of the ways that he was able to have access to Signal in the first place while there, which is basically an unsecure data connection that bypasses the Pentagon's security. Which, great job. We definitely needed that. And in a much more fluff story, but one that is very funny still, we learned that the Pentagon is having a makeup room made basically for all of these, TV appearances that Hegseth has to make.
I thought it was for JD. He needs his contour.
Oh, it's for all of them, honestly, but it is a part of a really fascinating observation I saw someone make, where the question was posed: why are all of these cabinet members on the news all the fucking time? Dude, what are they doing? Weird? Why aren't they doing their jobs? And the answer that they gave, that this person has assumed, is that they're doing that because they know Trump watches the news fucking constantly. And that is the most efficient way to get their ideas in front of him in a way that he might agree with them, is by filtering them through the Fox News interview sphere.
Donnie is literally one of those brain dead. Like, okay, I should point this out. I guess brain dead's a terrible way of putting it, but like, I've heard someone describe Fox News watching, and it's like CNN watching to some extent, those 24-hour news networks, as like eating a bag of chips. The more you eat, the less likely you are to get away from them.
Yep. And then the whole bag is gone, and you've wasted the day.
Well, you're wasting your presidency. Well, actually, no. He goes out golf. Donnie likes to go outside. Donnie needs his outdoor time.
Yeah, sure. He sure does golf a lot, doesn't he?
It's like the closest thing he gets to exercise.
Did you see the comparisons that were going around earlier this week about his physical health?
No, but please go on.
Donnie, let me see if I can find it. He is purported to be 6'3", and I believe 210 or 220 pounds.
Okay.
And the joke that was going around was like, man, with his health, we're at risk of losing him to the NFL draft.
Oh my. Isn't that like Gordon Ramsay too? 1 second.
Probably, but like he's actually super fit, and you can tell.
Yeah. Did you know Gordon Ramsay has like a black belt?
I believe it. That sounds very much like the kind of thing he would do.
Donnie is taller than.
But he would get like.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Ramsay would get like an actual black belt. I feel like, not like a fake, Jason Segal type thing,
Dude, there's a name for those kind of dojos. They're called Mick dojos. The basic idea is the more money you put in, the more likely you are to get your black belt.
Yep.
Yeah. I fucking love McDojo culture. Shout outs to anybody listening. Go look up McDojo on your social media platform of choice. I recommend Instagram. They will show McDojo's like indoctrination videos and people trying to like use McDojo techniques. It is the funniest shit to see all this fake fighting and acting like they're badass. It is so good. But continue, please. Donnie.
I was actually going to say, tangential to that, I do love the online fake, like, pretend self-defense stuff.
Dude, it's so funny.
In particular, when people do the replication of it and show how shit it is. Where there's, like, one person that's, like, this woman who is being shown in, like, a chokehold with somebody with their arm, like, firmly locked around her neck. And this move that she does to get out of the chokehold. And it's just like so dumb.
You know they have a name for that kind of fighting style?
What's that?
Bullshido.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Dude, one of my favorite ones is a guy. They put him in a scenario where he's being held up with a prop gun.
Mhm.
And so he goes through a laundry list of like fake ways to disarm a guy. And it always ends with him getting shot, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
And
much.
at the end, he's like, I will show you the one true way to get an active shooter off your back. In which case, he gets into a fighting stance, reaches into his left pocket, and gives the man his wallet.
Yeah, pretty much. That, yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, you're not guaranteed, but that's probably your best chance.
Oh, he still gets shot at the end. That's the...
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Then we're in real world. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what Donnie's whole administration is right now. Just like one giant McDojo.
It is worth talking about, though, the God, 'cause we did have some news this week that is particularly chilling from the current administration with the two state judges that were arrested this week on extremely flimsy charges. One of which I know for sure isn't even actual charges. And it's been a fascinating thing to learn about where Milwaukee Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested by FBI agents earlier this week on alleged charges of obstruction, where the FBI is claiming that she helped an undocumented immigrant evade arrest by allowing that immigrant and their lawyer to exit her court chambers through a secondary entrance that still filters out into the main public areas, at which point they then just walked out the front door of the courthouse. And they're claiming that because there were ICE agents looking for that person in her courthouse at that time, and she did not explicitly go out of her way to help them in that effort, that she has obstructed their effort now.
That's a really fucking scary technicality to try and enforce.
It really is. And it is super notable that the warrant that these FBI agents executed when they arrested her was a administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant, which is about exactly what it sounds like. A judicial warrant is a warrant that comes from a judge, that has been signed by a judge. And when it is signed by a judge, as you'd imagine, the judge weighs the charges being accused and whether or not there's even a reasonable suspicion that these are legitimate. An administrative warrant does not go in front of a judge. It goes in front of the ICE agent's boss, who is not a judge, is not a lawyer, does not know the law. And because of that, to back up, this is what was served to her in her courthouse when they were looking for this undocumented person. So she, a judge, sees a non-judicial warrant and correctly goes, yeah, this isn't a judicial warrant. I'm not going to help you with your, internal document here. So, yeah, it's bad. It is chilling. And it is the start of sort of an escalation, right? This is like thoroughly in the, if you are not actively helping the government turn in by turning in your neighbors, you are committing a crime step that, is super Nazi based.
Yeah, no, what scares me the most is how they're just kind of going for the throat of the justice system by going after a judge of all people.
Yeah. And the reason they're doing that is because they are getting fucking slaughtered in all of the courts. So now they have to try and find the thinnest of pretenses to start arresting judges to scare other judges into either not taking the cases or ruling in their favor.
Wild.
The other judge who was arrested was a New Mexico judge, Joel Cano, as well as his wife, who were accused of harboring an undocumented immigrant with alleged ties to Tren de Aragua.
Okay, so alleged ties, that's going far.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do they fucking house them then?
It is complete bullshit and
Bullshit.
extremely concerning.
Yeah. It's a scary next 3.5 years. Hey, but we're at the 3.5 year mark. We're going to.
Yeah. Has it even actually been officially 100 days yet?
I think we're just past 100 days. Because January, February, March, those are about 30 each.
Yeah.
And then here we are at the end of April, so we're about like maybe around the 120 mark. The late 110s.
According to a very, very, very cursory Google search, 100 days ago was January 17th.
I was really hoping for the joke it would have been January 6th, but
Yeah. So I don't believe we've hit the 100-day mark, even in Trump's second administration. We've got 3 more days to go.
oh, man. This is a long administration.
Yeah.
At least his polls are looking terrible.
Are they? Are they really? Because they're still in like the mid 40s from everything I've seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man.
It's this constant through line of whenever you ask these large groups of people,
Yeah, you're right, by the way.
do you approve or disapprove of Trump? You get these mid 40s approval, and then you ask them about policy, and it fucking craters. And these people, I don't understand why, if they just don't understand, or they don't care, or they haven't been personally hurt by it enough to attribute it to the person in charge of these policies. But consistently, we see that people don't like what Trump is doing, but approve of his presidency to a tune of like 10 to 15%, depending on the specific policy. People don't like the tariffs. They don't like the immigration. They don't like fucking anything that's going on. They don't like the abuse of the courts. They don't like him disagreeing and ignoring a Supreme Court order. But they still approve of his presidency.
Because he's not a Democrat.
It's like, what are we supposed to fucking do? What do you do?
What do you do? I'm just kind of curious to live in those people's heads.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Seems like a very lonely place to be.
You gotta imagine it is kind of a loneliness aspect. Because I feel like anybody with like a degree of social awareness, or at least like incentivized to care about people outside themselves, would come to conclusions faster.
Actually reminded me, just talking about social awareness.
Yeah.
We actually had something that I didn't have a link for, so I forgot to have something in here that I'm going to throw in here. RFK Jr. is going after autistic people.
Oh, shit, you're right. I forgot about that story.
Yep.
Yeah, please, can you tell me more about that? Because I didn't look into that one.
It's really insidious and really fucked up and really scary what they're trying to do. The big real news that we had out of this was the announcement from RFK that the Health and Human Services, DHS, FDA, HHS are going to be looking into what the cause of autism is, with the particular insidious part of that being that they claim we will know by September, which, as anybody who works in the sciences can tell you, you can always exactly know when your science is going to be done by. That's how science works. You know the outcome of it before you go in, right? That's why you do the research, is because you already know the thing and you just need to confirm it. No, it's very obvious that, what is going to happen, because we know what RFK's stance on autism is. He thinks it either doesn't exist or it's being overdiagnosed, or, take your conspiracy reason pick as to why it is. And they're not going to figure out what the cause of autism is by September. They're going to have all of their paperwork in a row so that they can present a bullshit reason for why they conspiratorially think that autism rates are going up, as they would put it, even though they're not. And in fact, I'd have to double check this again. I believe we actually saw autism rates like sort of level off, more or less, and like slightly tick down, which is kind of funny because it's like, yeah, why didn't you see autistic people in the 70s? Because they threw them into fucking institutions. Yeah. And they were never heard from again. What do you think happened? It's straight back to COVID, where they're trying to claim that testing for a thing is causing the thing. It's psychotic.
Stupid move. Yeah, sorry.
It somehow gets worse. That's the really fucked up thing, is that we haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. Because part of this is that they are going to be launching an autism registry where anyone who is autistic, they haven't really announced how they're going to do it, but a disease registry that will track what Americans have autism. And that's fucked up on a lot of levels. For one, autism is a spectrum. Just because somebody has autism does not at all define what their quality of life is, how independent they are. It is so broad as to what somebody who has that condition actually means in terms of their life. And beyond that, why the fuck would the government want to publish a public list of anybody who has any health condition that violates so many laws, and it's just so unnecessary?
Dude, he's doing it just so he looks good. Like you said, I feel this is like you said, Donnie watches the news. This feels like a PR stunt. A lot of this feels like. I'm not saying he's not going to do it. I'm just saying it feels grander than it ever should ever get.
I think there's also this goes back to the conspiracy stuff we were talking about before, right? Let's assume for a minute, and these people do not deserve this kind of leeway because they're all terrible people. Yeah. But let's assume that they are acting in some amount of good faith and that they are doing genuine scientific work to try to understand the cause of autism. What do you think they're going to do when it comes back with the decades of research that we already have, and it just confirms that, and not the preconceived biases that they have been claiming?
Oh,
clearly they have to admit that they're wrong, and they are physically incapable of doing that.
I was going to say they're going to fire whoever they did got to do the study, and then claim they were just bad at their job.
Also true.
Yeah. I think it is incredibly icky because, as you said, it's a spectrum. So overall, where do you stop that registry, Do you have
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Where do you stop the definition if you I just don't get it, dude. Are they going to include Asperger's in there?
Good question. Who knows?
Who knows?
I think the really insidious part of this, right, is that this is the same thing that we've seen in LGBT type spaces where Republicans try to reclassify people existing as a crime.
Oh yeah.
Right? Oh, you want to be gay and in public? Oh, sorry, that's perversion, and you're exposing children to sexual things, so you're a pedophile now. And we're going to throw you in jail for being gay. It's the same playbook we've seen for decades, and it really feels like they're just going to be expanding that same situation to people with certain medical conditions now. And it's so gross.
So are they literally just going to go through everybody's fucking private information to get that registry, or are people going to be voluntold to do it, or
Who knows? Legally, they can't.
yeah,
But has the law stopped them yet?
we will see. I like to
Yeah.
think that they're probably just talking up smoke because it sounds like a fucking nightmare. But RFK has a fucking worm eating his brain, so who knows?
Yeah.
So are they going to put Elon on that registry? Because he's confirmed.
They should
Yeah.
if they're doing this, but probably not. The really insidious side of this as well is that they could come back and be like, actually nobody has autism because it's fake.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. What I think is they're going to try slapping like the spectrum off autism, and they're going to like
Yeah.
make a clear definition just so that people who, let's say are on the higher functioning side are unable to get any care.
Yep.
They're unable to get diagnosed, and that's more money freed up for fuck all. I don't know.
Or they go with the thing that started this whole thing with the vaccines cause autism one, right? When
Yeah.
they made up a fake disease to then attribute to children who didn't even have autism in some cases. And then that was what they decided that needed to be treated.
I see you.
So it won't be autism. It'll be like vaccine resultant mental health problems or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, redefine it and then target the real enemy right there. Fuck.
And then they
yeah.
just stop giving people vaccines.
Yeah, polio. No. Holy
It's not like we have a
fuck.
measles epidemic already. Wouldn't that be embarrassing?
Dude.
You know what else is embarrassing? Elon Musk's companies being shit.
That's true.
Tesla had their first quarter earnings revealed. This comes off the back of estimates already being way down for the company, and they didn't even make those. I'm going to give the short version of this because it's not worth that much time. It's fun to point and laugh at for about 5 seconds, but point and laugh we will do still. From quarter 1, 2024, I guess technically it'd be quarter 3, however it works, the same time last year, revenue for Tesla is down 10%. Car deliveries are down 24%, and net income is down 71%. It is particularly notable, and I believe this is the first time in years this has been the case, that without the money Tesla receives from government subsidies of people purchasing their cars, they would not have made any money during that period.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Another part of this that I thought was fascinating and is something that really doesn't get talked about a lot in just modern modern economics at large, is how Tesla still had like 20 billion. How much was it? They missed expectations by $1.8 billion. Their net income was down 71% to $409 million. But I believe I saw a spreadsheet for it. It's not in this article that I have here anymore, which is unfortunate. But I believe their total revenue was something like 18 or 19 billion dollars. And it is remarkable that a $19 billion company can see a loss of that their profits at their best was only $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
The scales of it are so skewed, it feels, it feels fake.
Yeah. Well, all of it is fake. Economics is nothing more than a confidence game, my good sir.
That's true.
Yeah. And what's more confident than a white man knowing he's not able to tell when he's doing wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I had $2 million in sales, I would call that successful. I would call that profitable. I think that's a scale issue on their part.
Yeah.
The joke here is I'm on a different scale than Tesla.
I don't know. I've been trying to keep track a lot more closely of the financial things that are going on in the tech space, because there is a lot that is going to be happening very shortly here, I feel, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, we are thoroughly in what seems only reasonable to describe as an AI bubble. And it feels like a question of when rather than if the bubble pops now. And from that, what goes down with it?
Yeah. I think the country, maybe, because aren't they using ChatGPT for some ideas?
I don't think it'll be that far reaching, thankfully. But we did have I wasn't going to talk about it because it's so dumb. The not dumb part is that Google continues to be investigated for antitrust violations, particularly with regard to their search business, where they have taken pretty obvious monopolistic actions to consolidate their power and prevent their competitors from gaining market share. And it's really been fascinating to see a service that has become so critical to the average person, and the government is investigating the antitrust issues with this service, and the solutions to that always seems to be, well, Google needs to sell that to somebody else or sell a portion of it to somebody else, rather than, why doesn't the government just buy it? Why not have Google search or search as a concept be nationalized, right? And under the current administration, there's obviously problems with that, but this has been an ongoing thing for years now. And it's really weird that that possibility hasn't really been presented at all. Like, one would imagine, with all of the power consolidation that the current administration is doing, that would be something they would propose, because it benefits them a lot to be able to take over that aspect,
Yeah.
The other side of it, though, is that we've gotten some very funny suggestions for who might buy it. One of which was OpenAI, who is perennially unable to turn a profit and is swimming in debt and is expected to need to take on tens of billions of dollars of more debt just to not die and take the entire tech sector of the economy with it. Another one was fucking Yahoo. Apparently they want to buy it, so that's great.
Wouldn't that be a great all-arounder?
It sure would be something. So, yeah. Economy's looking great. There's definitely no issues with international shipments not happening because of the tariffs. That's not a thing. Anyways, you want to talk about some movies?
Let's all talk about movies. Let's all go talk
I
about
did want
movies.
to briefly point out before we get into the movies that Andor season 2 and The Last of Us season 2 have both started, and I've not watched any of either yet. So, getting that out of the way first.
I am too wrapped up in Doctor Who at the moment.
Understandable. I'll say I'm really disappointed. Spoiler alert for a 5-year-old video game, I guess. If you don't want The Last of Us spoilers, turn off now. But I have been very patiently, I think, waiting for the part where they fucking murder Joel, because I want to see the internet's response to that from all the normies,
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really funny. And I'm super disappointed in HBO that they haven't done it yet. We're 2 episodes in and the fucker's still alive. What are you doing?
Does he die that early in game?
Yeah, it's like in the first 2 hours. It's
That's
super
wild.
quick.
That's funny.
That was one of the things that was so, and one of the reasons why that actually being leaked didn't matter that much is because it happens super early in the game, and then there's like another 20 hours after that. That's the actual story. That's like the inciting incident for The Last of Us Part 2 is Joel fucking dies.
Okay, so what I hear is that supposedly Last of Us Season 2 is going to be half of Part 2.
I'm sure that it will be.
The second half is going to be the other half.
I will say, though, I am going to be so disappointed if their like finale cliffhanger is Joel dying. That would be, I think, a disservice to the creative decisions that Naughty Dog actually made about the show.
Yeah.
And they had such the perfect vehicle of telling this story where you could have had one season following Ellie and then one season following Abby and then have them meet up again at the finale of them. And you see both perspectives, and it feels like such a cop-out that they aren't doing that. So, like, make these people suffer through this thing that everybody else had to already. That's the only reason why this shit works, and I'm really worried that they're gonna sanitize this story a lot to make it more universally appealing and make people feel less shitty watching it, if that makes sense, because playing through The Last of Us Part 2 is not an enjoyable experience, and that is on purpose. You are not supposed to enjoy watching these people's lives just fucking dissolve.
My life has been dissolving for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
These Doctor Who episodes, my good sir. Something's afoot. They're fucking with us.
That sounds like it.
They're fucking with the fans. The fact that there's like spoon theory now.
Yeah, they're fucking with you.
They've got me hyper analyzing, looking for spoons.
They're conditioning you.
Conditioning me?
Yeah.
For what?
You're being Pavloved.
Pavloved.
To look for things.
That's actually kind of funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is like what Wizards did to the entire Magic community with the Phyrexia stuff, where you like always look for the Phyrexian logo and everything because they sort of retroactively revealed that, like, yeah, we've actually been slipping this into the iconography for 2 years now.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was a really good reveal. It's just like, oh fuck, they really did. It's been around.
Dude, so like
one thing I'll say real quick on that point that was really cool is that they had some reprints that they had from like past sets where they hid the iconography in the art and then they reprinted them and updated the flavor text to more explicitly point out the iconography that they had already done years before.
Jesus.
It was very clever.
They're doing something on Doctor Who, right? Where I swear to God, they are legitimately trying to fuck with me. They're fucking doing this thing, right? Where everything is reflecting, and I hate it. Like, so remember how I mentioned spoons, right?
Yeah.
They're doing plot points in which things reflect on spoons, and then I started noticing they're reusing shots from earlier episodes. Like, one to one, it's the same shot, just in different contexts, as like a reflection of a previous shot. And you remember how I said they keep going to that date for May 4th, 2025?
Yep.
Okay. You put that fucker on a calendar, like 5/24/25?
Yep.
It reflects on itself. It's a palindrome. It's all reflections. I'm going insane.
I would say that would be very funny if they did it that way, given that it's a British show and their dates are backwards to ours.
Oh, you fucking caught me. You caught me. Thank you, sir.
That does, to be clear, that does seem like the kind of thing that they would do.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, we got some movies to catch up on.
Do you want to talk about Sinners?
I would like to talk about Sinners last because I have the most to say about it. I'll go through a bit of a lightning round because there's a lot of stuff that has come out that we just need to kind of like acknowledge. So, The Amateur, the Rami Malek, Lawrence Fishburne, spy-ish movie.
Rami Malek's back?
Yeah. Charlie Heller, played by Rami Malek, is a brilliant but deeply introverted decoder for the CIA working out of a basement office in Langley, Virginia, whose life is turned upside down when his wife is killed in a London terrorist attack. When his supervisors refuse to take action, he takes matters into his own hands, embarking on a dangerous trek across the globe to track down those responsible, his intelligence serving as his ultimate weapon for eluding his pursuers and achieving his revenge. So yeah. It's about what it sounds like. I think it has some interesting ideas. It's doing kind of but you know, this seems like the kind of thing that I will watch at some point just because it seems like an interesting gimmick.
Makes sense.
The idea of like Taken, but the guy is too scared to shoot a gun kind of thing is clever.
Passive aggressive Taken.
And in the world of Taken, but all the guns, we have The Accountant 2, sequel to the Ben Affleck film The Accountant. Christian Wolff, played by Ben Affleck, has a talent for solving complex problems. When an old acquaintance is murdered, leaving behind a cryptic message to find the accountant, Wolff is compelled to solve the case, realizing that more extreme measures are necessary. Wolff recruits his estranged and highly lethal brother Brax, played by John Bernthal, to help. In partnership with U.S. Treasury Deputy Director Maribeth Medina, they uncover a deadly conspiracy, becoming targets of a ruthless network of killers who will stop at nothing to keep their secrets buried. Yeah, it's an action movie that's showing on Prime, so take that what you will.
I would love for like one of these generic action movies to also be like tied into another generic action movie. So there's just two movies releasing at the same time, but you don't realize that they're in line with each other.
That'd be good.
That'd be really interesting.
I always expected them to do more with the Expendables movies, because those always kind of like loosely acknowledged the fact that these people were action heroes in other movies and kind of played off that idea. But then they just got dumb and ended up being sort of like a place for washed up action actors to make money, even though they weren't physically fit enough to do action movies anymore.
Wouldn't it be funny if that's what happens to the Marvel cast in like their 70s? They reboot the Expendables.
The Avengeables.
The Avengeables. What else do we got?
We have the Until Dawn movie. A great reminder that video game movies don't always make all the money. This is based off of the video game Until Dawn. 1 year after her sister Melanie mysteriously disappeared, Clover and her friends head into the remote valley where she vanished in search of answers. Exploring an abandoned visitor center, they find themselves stalked by a masked killer and horrifically murdered one by one, only to wake up and find themselves back at the beginning of the same evening. Trapped in the valley, they're forced to relive the night again and again, only each time the killer threat is different, each more terrifying than the last. Hope dwindling, the group soon realizes they have a limited number of deaths left, and the only way to escape is to survive until dawn.
Boo.
Kind of a fascinating video game in that it spawned its own sort of genre of video games where the very narrative focused survival horror thing made a comeback and is still kind of back in a lot of ways. From what I understand, this is, being first has its problems, but is one of the more creative and better done ones. Critically, this isn't doing great, 51%. Audiences say 70% though, so it doesn't seem to suck that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more of what one would actually expect a video game movie to be like.
I do feel like we're getting spoiled a little bit with like some of these very good adaptations that have been coming out lately. That we're starting to forget that video game movies never had the sauce in the first place.
Yeah.
And that we should probably praise our little adaptations a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Definitely.
There's a fucking Sonic 3 and it's good.
Yeah. It turns out that whether or not something, this is the kind of thing, this is the lesson we should have known for a long time, right? Because how many movies are based off of books? How many movies based off of books are good or bad? It's all over the place. It doesn't matter if it's based off of a book. It matters what you do with that concept. And the same thing's video games. If you have a good idea for how to adapt a thing, it's probably going to be a good movie. If you're just adapting a thing because the thing you're adapting it from is popular, it's probably going to suck.
Okay. Question for you, right? One of my favorite. Let's learn a little bit about Chiral, everybody. Twofold. If you could adapt anything into a film, what would be that one thing?
Anything into a film.
Yes, you can take anything.
That's interesting.
In a different medium.
For a long time, I think The Last of Us would have been my number one. It is such a compelling story, and we've seen that with the popularity of the HBO series, that it really would have done well to have that adaptation just to make it available to a wider audience. And I still think part of me is in that same vein where I would like there to be a more concise and accessible version of that story, because it's not the most original idea, but it is executed very well, and it has certain moments that stand out and are very, very good. Mm-hmm. With that not being an option, though, it's tough.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously lots of narrative-focused video games that are pretty easy to pick out just because a lot of the hard work has already been done. I think as more of an outside answer, I would say the mobile rhythm game Citus 2 to be adapted into a movie, because it is obviously a mobile rhythm game that is meant to sell you more song packs to keep playing the mobile rhythm game. Yeah. But there's also a bizarre amount of really good lore that went into it for some reason that is kind of compelling and should be able to be adapted into a quite good and pretty unique style of science fiction movie.
Okay. I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I think?
What's that?
I feel with a lot of video game adaptations nowadays, television might be a better medium than movies, just because you get more time to kind of strengthen that out. And I think that's what The Last of Us has taught us. I also think we should probably do more TV adaptations of books, just because television's come very far. And I think adapting a grand novel into a fucking movie is just not as viable as it used to be when you can get more detail in a book, film, and TV.
I can appreciate that, but I don't necessarily agree. I think it, like most things, needs to be taken case by case.
Yeah.
You know, if you take something like any of the Uncharted games, right, you can very easily condense any one of those into a 2-hour or less film, because it's just so much action and puzzle solving. You know, it's Indiana Jones, right? That's what it's based off of. Could see that for some of them, though. I still do think that a lot of video game adaptations are just mostly misguided.
Yeah.
They either try to capitalize on something for purely a profit motive, or they fail to understand why the thing was popular in the first place. A game that's been in a lot of discussion lately has been like Disco Elysium, right? And I could see somebody trying to make a buck capitalizing off of the name, making a TV series or something about it, but ultimately failing just because the people who the amount of money that you need to make something like that happens is going to come from people who aren't going to be comfortable giving you that money for the actual concepts that the game explores.
Okay. I see you.
Like,
I see you.
Hollywood isn't going to give you $200 million to make Marxism Simulator 2015, right? That they're just not going to do it. Doesn't matter how good that Marxism Simulator is. They just don't agree with it at a conceptual level.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm curious, what would your adaptation be?
Dude, one of the things that's like been on my mind ever since I came into an interaction with it has been the fucking Wind Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami, the book.
Yep.
It is a very far out, spacey kind of read. Very melancholic in its own way too. And I constantly kind of come back to it on and off again just to try and better understand the plot, because it's fucking vague as hell. At the same time, I would love just to see the challenge of trying to adaptate that. It is one of those things where I think you could not adaptate it in any form other than maybe animation.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of really fucked up shit like skinning people alive in that book. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't want to ruin a props department's day with anything that graphic. So yeah, I'll take the Wind Up Bird Chronicle, Alex, for 200.
Thinking, it is partly, multiple factors why it doesn't happen, of course, but thinking how it would be interesting, I think, to see more like music albums adapted into films.
I think
That's
I thought
not really
something
a
like
thing.
that at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could really do that well unless it's like a concept album like Rush.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's also just not really enough albums being made anymore, it feels like.
I feel like the way
There's like, because like, let me be clear about that, right? Because there are obviously albums being released, but music today isn't being thought of in the popular culture as a thing where there is 45 minutes of it and one thing connects to the next. It's just a collection of 3-minute songs that are more or less completely independent of one another.
See, if I had to describe like a way to do a movie for a album, I'd probably go with something like an anthology, almost something kind of like Pulp Fiction, where you have all these narratives that are very much linked to each other, but they're all anthological at the end of the day. Anthological. Yeah. Because that, to me, that's how an album should be. Very much like a larger canvas with many things going on with it.
I can see that.
One of my favorite albums, Low by David Bowie. It's one of those albums you don't really get to hear the same way every time you listen to it. When you learn the story of like how the album was made and how David Bowie was battling drugs and trying to get off it, get clean, and pretty much restart his life after a messy divorce. Very interesting story. And then you kind of get to the second half of the album where it's more of a musical exploration of those feelings than the actual stories of the songs. And to me, that is what set that idea up in my head of like all albums are kind of like anthologies around the same core concept. Like even in that album, you kind of get a day in David Bowie's head as he's going through what could be the worst time of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, everybody, please go listen to David Bowie's Low. Do yourself a favor.
All that said, we do have more movies to go through.
Oh, hell yeah.
Bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
And then we have the big one. So two other quick ones. One, we have Colorful Stage, the movie, a Miku who can't sing, that I think is
heard of this.
notable for two reasons. One, from audiences, it's overwhelmingly popular because, who would have guessed that a Miku movie would do well? Also, because there's a single critic review of somebody who says, this movie might offer more for audiences who are familiar with the games and characters that inspired it, but it's an easy skip for the uninitiated. No shit. What did you think this movie was?
I just wanted to see it for the fucking pretty anime girls. Don't judge
I can't
me.
imagine going to a fucking Hatsune Miku movie and not knowing who Hatsune Miku is going into that. What chain of events would lead you to that point?
It reminds me of those fucking people who are probably like stunned when Hatsune Miku did the Domino collaboration.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh wow, they made a whole movie for that Domino's ad?
dude, I'd fuck with that. That would be funny.
Be very funny.
That's basically how Space Jam started, actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, it's not that far off. Yeah.
Okay. Let me.
We also have last one to go through before for the big one. The Ugly Stepsister released this week. Last week, to surprisingly strong reviews. In a twisted take on the classic Cinderella story, the Ugly Stepsister follows Elvira as she battles to compete with her insanely beautiful stepsister. In a fairy tale kingdom where beauty is a brutal business, Elvira will go to any lengths to catch the prince's eye. The Ugly Stepsister is the gory tale of the blood and sweat, grit and gold that goes into making Elvira the belle of the ball. 96% from critics, 86% from audiences. It is a Norwegian language film, notably. So do with that what you will, probably by not seeing it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the Miku movie thing is just making me just think about the dominoes too often. Like, if I did a Miku movie, right? You know what would be a great concept for it?
What's that?
The fucking Barbie movie plot. But just put Hatsune Miku in there. Have Miku become a real woman at the end.
That would be a decision for sure.
Okay, question for you, right?
Yes.
What are your opinions on Vocaloids?
I think there's definitely some really compelling music that gets made with it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if we talked about it too much, but there's one that debuted, I think, about 2 years ago now, called Tito, that is super impressive just in it being a synthetic voice in how realistic it is able to sound.
Really?
Yeah. It's just really good. It's like, damn. It could have fooled me. I would have assumed that was a person singing, but it's a Vocaloid. So there's yeah. I mean, it's like any instrument, I feel like, right? I don't have a particular preference either way. I've heard good Vocaloid music. I've heard bad Vocaloid music.
So my whole experience, I don't actively go out to listen to Vocaloids. I've listened to a couple just from friends.
Yep.
The one time I have had experience with a Vocaloid is when Korg made a fucking Miku guitar pedal.
Yes.
Pilot fucking Hatsune Miku with a guitar is wild. I found out about this because Jack White used it in a fucking song. Anyway, that's my Christmas gift idea for the year, Kyrol. Please remember my address to mail that to me as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. I'm seeing if I can find it real quick. Yeah, this one. I'll send you this one over from what is the name? Kasane Tato from the debut of this Vocaloid project thing. I will say I don't think that the like idol part of it is particularly notable. It's more from technology perspective and from that what people are able to do with it.
You know, I honestly thought, right, as we get to like this new era where Kiss is retiring, that they would have made like fucking Vocaloid Kiss models.
I can see them do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have rather they just like give the band to like a new generation, like a new Kiss, but
Yeah.
that's also very much an option for them. Fuck yes,
let me
ugly
see.
models.
Here we go. This is a recent Miku Vocaloid thing that came up on my radar that I would highly recommend because it is just very well made.
Huh. Interesting. They're interesting instruments because like, the thing with this is like I don't see the character often because like to me, music nerd here, I have to think of them as an instrument to better understand their like function.
Yeah.
I think that's why I can't get into like the idol part of it. Like it's a cool idea, but I think I just don't have the mindset for it. Yeah.
To round it off, I have two more Miku things.
Oh no.
As a reminder that Wizards of the Coast collaborated with Hatsune Miku not once, but twice in official music promotions that have also had multiple tie-ins with the actual Magic the Gathering card game.
I'm just saying this because we also got news this week that the Final Fantasy set, which is not even out yet, is the highest grossing Magic set of all time.
Yep.
You're never getting a normal set again, Kyril, and I apologize.
Nope. It's a shame that... So, you say that, but we also got news this week that with the upcoming Marvel sets, contractually, they're not able to put them on Wizards' digital clients. So they can't put Spider-Man on Magic Online or Magic Arena. To get around that, because these cards are legal in standard, so they're legal in literally every format, they're doing in-universe versions of the entire set and then also releasing that as the version of that on those platforms.
That's really cool. Let me know when there's a Columbo Magic the Gathering club. I'll be happy to join in for that.
You're not going to believe this.
You're not. No, fuck you.
Not officially, but there is an extremely not subtle reference to Columbo already in the game.
No way.
Dead serious. The final word Phantom.
No.
Yeah. That's a real card that really exists.
He's even doing like the little, like, just one more thing.
Yep. That's the flavor text.
Yeah, the pose. He's doing like a pose with it too. Like,
yeah. And this was the set where they made the detective creature type be a thing, so it gets to be a detective. Yeah.
I fucking love it. That's really good.
It sure is something.
Isn't that
exists.
The murder set?
Yep. So this was the Commander product that released with it, but yes.
Okay. I thought about getting into that set because I'm on quite the binge of murder mysteries lately. Sam and I, the infamous Sam, as I'm calling her for branding purposes.
It is not the worst thing that they've done, but it was very poorly received, I'll say that.
Okay. That explains why it's so cheap on Amazon.
Yes.
So the infamous Sam and I are watching Only Murders in the Building, and that's quite the trip, I will say. I recommend that show. Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez solve mysteries in a big apartment building. What fun.
Heard a lot of good stuff about it, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she won't let me watch Columbo. She gets really bored watching Columbo.
It's pretty old.
Dude, it is a very old thing. I think I'm just broken in the fact that I love really slow-paced, like, stuff like that. Because, like, the point of Columbo, for anybody who is uninitiated, right, is that you are trying to figure out how Columbo figures it out. You already know what it is. So I think if you go in and expect a story to actually happen, you're not going to have a good time. But if you approach it as like a very reactionary series and you just kind of watch as the murderer tries to get away with it, it's very fun. Anyway, enough dilly-dallying.
One last movie.
Yes.
Sinners. The Ryan Coogler film released a few weeks ago to overwhelming acclaim. 98% from critics, 97% from audiences. Lots of 10 out of 10s being thrown around, lots of talk about prospective nominations for various award shows already, even though we're only in April. I have seen it, and it is very interesting.
Now, I have a friend who told me that he went to go see this movie. Outside of you, believe it or not, I have more friends. He told me that this movie was very good, worth the hype. But however, he was kind of worried that it was overhyped at the same time. So I'm very curious, because I trust your opinion on films as well. How do you respond to an argument like that?
I'm a bit mixed. I haven't seen that much hype around it myself to think that it is particularly overhyped. But like, because it is with the way that Rotten Tomatoes works, right? Because it works on more or less a recommend, not recommend scale. I can totally see how this is 98% of people recommend seeing it. I get that. But I don't think it is a 9.8 out of 10 movie, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay.
It is very, very, very good. And I think, God, like the first, how long is the runtime? It's a little over 2 hours, isn't it? Like the first hour and a half is one of the best movies I've ever seen. But there's another 45 minutes in the movie, and it's still really, really good, but it's not best movie I've ever seen good.
Okay. Because I'm a fan of Ryan Coogler, and I think Michael B. Jordan is one of those actors at the moment who can do no wrong, besides maybe supporting a friend that should not be supported.
Yes.
But that's his own personal feelings, and I will let him do as he pleases in regards to that, because I'm just evaluating him as an actor here.
Yes.
Those two fucked me up when I was watching Creed. That is a good movie. So to see them like do a horror film like this, I'm interested a lot.
That is one part of it that I have been struggling to come to a decision on, really, is like, what is this movie? And I think what it is can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people.
Okay.
And that is one of the parts of it that has me the most hung up on it, is that I think if it stuck to one thing or the other, it could have been better, but it also could have been worse, you know? But I see these certain parts of it that are tonally going in kind of different directions, and it makes me think like, oh, what if they had done this instead? And that's not a guarantee that that thing would have been better, but I don't know. It gives me doubts about it, you know?
Yeah, no, I could see it. You kind of get that idea of like what could have been. Yeah.
I don't want to go into spoilers for it, because I do think it is a movie that is worth seeing as unspoiled as possible.
Will do.
And that is, difficult to do when it is, largely a horror movie, because you're going to see what the monster is, because that's part of the reason that pulls people in, right? I I can very well see this movie being the film du jour for every YouTube film critic for the next 5 years, because there is a lot that can be discussed and broken down and talked about and analyzed in this across a really broad spectrum of disciplines. And I think that is one of its strongest points, is that there's not any one technical aspect of the movie that lets it down. It's written well, it's acted well, it sounds good, the score's good, the setting is good, and it looks interesting. It has a lot of individual aspects where in other movies you can be like, oh yeah, but the score sucks. And that's not the case here. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is coming up so highly rated, is because there's not any one thing for the people who are fans of that discipline, or for the people who are just sort of general contrarians, to pick out and point to as like, oh yeah, that's the bad thing. It's really hard to point out the faults in it because it gets so much right. Something else that I didn't want to point out, that I'm going to try and say I can say this pretty easy without spoiling it, is that for being a horror / drama movie, I was really impressed with the writing and the performances. That there are multiple scenes that are just genuinely funny.
Really?
Where they have jokes that they set up and they deliver, and there's a punchline, and it works really fucking good because of the performances from like Michael B. Jordan and the people he's working with, and the way that it's written. It's really good, and not like ha 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 pun, zinger kind of stuff. Just like really lighthearted, amusing moments that are clearly being played for jokes on purpose.
Okay.
And that's something that you don't get a lot of, and I was really impressed by that. Also feel obliged to mention that this is an extremely R-rated movie in a way that I haven't seen in a long time, particularly with regard to the way it handles, as the rating has it, sexual content. This movie is not discreet in any way. It's not subtle. It does not imply. And when it does imply, you know exactly what it is talking about. I think it's for the better for it, because it's very genuine. Because of that, it's not hiding anything, but please do not take small children to see this movie, even if you think they're fine with the violence part of it. And there's a lot of violence that happens in this movie. You're probably going to feel really uncomfortable if you bring like your 12-year-old to see this, because it is not meant for them.
Well, I'll just bring an 11-year-old. You can't stop me.
No, I can't, but I would sure think less of somebody who did.
That's good.
It's a really good movie, though. I look forward to being able to see it again, because there is a lot going on that it is hard to take it all in at once. Also, I have to point this out because I feel bad for whoever was running the screening that I saw. They probably got caught out by it as much as anybody did. There is I should have stayed for the entire credits after this, because I don't know if there's like an actual post-credit scene. I don't know if there is. There is a mid-credits scene at the end of it.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, the guy running my theater apparently didn't know that, and they started like the stylized credits before like the main credits. And at the part when the stylized credits happened, because this is a super late showing, I saw it at 8:00, so it's like 10:30. He pulled the lights up already, and that's the sign for a lot of people of like, movie's done, time to move on.
Yeah.
I watched to the end of that piece, and then I got up to start to leave, and I got like just to the end of my aisle of seats, and the mid-credit scene started, and it's like 3.5 minutes. It's long. It's a proper epilogue piece, and I had to stand there awkwardly in the hallway, leaning against the wall, watching it from the exit row.
That's funny.
So there's a mid-credit scene. Stay tuned for it. Yeah.
So what'd you do when Chicken Jockey showed up?
I was actually kind of like in the back of my mind wondering, like, I wonder when the Minecraft movie screenings are happening and if I'm going to actually hear anything, and I didn't hear anything else. So
Damn.
there was no Chicken Jockey in this theater that I'm aware of, at least.
I feel like in a post-COVID world, people are more prone to doing fuck-ass shit in a theater all of a sudden, just like as a community event.
Well, there's probably an entire discussion that we could have on just that. It has been really fascinating to see. And there's obviously like the two minds of it where it's like, okay, anything that gets people of that age into a theater is probably good in the long term. But it's also been fascinating to see basically an entire generation of people who have basically never been in a theater, at least not voluntarily. Like their parents probably brought them to movies, but they've never gone to see a movie on their own, and how it's really obvious that they just don't understand etiquette around being in a theater because it's not an experience that they've lived through.
I agree. I think that's why you see stuff like that. Because what else? There was something else like Chicken Jockey as a meme. I don't remember what else. Do you remember?
I mean,
it was like a big viral
there's been
thing.
a couple, right? So we had the Minions movie where everybody dressed up in suits to go see the Minions movie, and obviously the Morbius stuff. I don't think we've really had the Minecraft movies reception has been really unique and exploded in a way that I have to genuinely wonder how genuine it is. Not from the people doing it, but from the people online promoting it.
I see what you mean.
Because the parts that are being, memed, so to speak, because they're not even being memed, they're not showing up in memes, right?
I don't know anything about the Chicken Jockey scene other than people throw popcorn.
Well, so I mean that's basically it, right?
Yeah.
Like I wish I had a better reference to pull up off the top of my head. I've seen a couple of movies that are talking about it for people both who just saw. I do think that the best Minecraft movie review is from Red Letter Media, who saw it on basically opening night. Whose screening was just totally normal, and who left halfway through the movie because they were just like, yeah, this isn't so bad it's interesting, it's just mediocre and we don't want to see the rest of it because we know what's going to happen. So they gave the review from having watched half of a movie, and it's totally fine. It's great. But it is worth noting that the vast majority of the screenings for this aren't having people lose their fucking mind in the way that is being shown in the news stories. We're only ever seeing the worst of it. And you're going to have people, particularly children, going to see these movies, everywhere. When the meme line that they heard on TikTok comes up, going to repeat that line and be loud about it. But they're not going to throw their popcorn. They're not going to fuck up the movie theater because they don't really give that much of a shit, right?
Yeah.
It's a B-tier movie that they're going and seeing because it's popular online and they feel some sort of social obligation to do so.
It's so nice having movies back.
I will say, on a completely different level, to be clear, but there was kind of what felt like the Chicken Jockey equivalent moment in my screening that I can't talk about because it would spoil a scene towards the end of the movie. Okay. But there was a single audience member who had a reaction to a thing that happened that I thought was very amusing in the context of everything that was happening. And they were not like super disruptive. They just were like, vocal about it, and they had a vocal reaction, not in like a bad way. They just reacted to something that happened. And I thought that was very funny. just in the context of what was happening in that scene. So I look forward to being able to talk about that later because it was very amusing.
God, I need to convince Sam to let me watch that movie.
Yeah, it is a thing. One thing that I will say, I think I can definitely say is the part that I was the most disappointed of, that I don't think detracts from it because it's more misplaced expectations on my own part, is that I don't remember which review it was, but in one of the reviews I had heard there being talk about there being like Devil Went Down to Georgia kind of vibe to it, and that's not wrong, but it is much less literal than that sounds, right? Where you're obviously in the Deep South, you've got the black white divide, and it's a horror movie, and there's a emphasis on the music aspect of the culture that's happening there. So there's themes similar to that, but there is no moment that is literally that, if that makes sense.
You know, that's something I've really been kind of enjoying about Sinners, just from an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of like Delta Blues.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that Delta Blues mythology is kind of around like that Deep South. I don't want to say it's horror, but there's like that,
but it kind of is. Spirituality, I think, is the way that I would call it, because there is a very strong emphasis on spirituality through this movie, just as much as how that spirituality can manifest as horror.
That's a good way of putting it. Because like that poster I sent you with the guitar in the background, like how they're all forming the guitar. That's beautiful to me. That is absolutely the best poster I could ever see.
Yeah.
And it might not just be because I have a guitar fetish, but fuck you. No, that to me just tells me everything I need to, like, as a fan. So someone who kind of knows of the culture. I'm not going to say I know the culture, but like it's something that I'm very well acquainted with.
Absolutely.
Like, to see that represented is very awesome to me. Even the tagline, Dance with the Devil.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say, while there is absolutely exceptional performances in this movie, including from like not just like acting performances, like musical performances, there was not as much full like songs happening, right?
Okay.
If that makes sense. So I was also expecting that going in there, to have more of like a, here's the song we wrote for this movie and here's us playing that whole song. And they clearly did write things for this movie. And what they wrote is very good blues from that, based on that period of time. But yeah, I was expecting there to be a little bit more, and there wasn't really that. The focus is much broader than just a single song.
Yeah. Because, like, I get the Crossroad myth on here a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fucking Ludwig did the score for this? He's an asshole, but man, he makes good music.
Score is really, really good. There's one thing that I saw pointed out in a review that I paid attention for, and I think it would do you well to pay attention for it as well, is to focus on the instruments that he chooses to use as the movie develops. And how when you're in like the first act and things are building up, it's very acoustic. There's lots of, twang and banjo and guitar happening. And then as the stakes get higher and higher and higher and you get to the climax of the movie, he starts pulling in like electric guitars and synths to really hammer in what's happening. It's really fucking effective.
So here's my thing. I'm looking at some of the music consultants for the blues music.
Mm-hmm.
They got fucking Buddy Guy and Kingfish on here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to get me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope they do like what Soul had, right? Where Soul has two scores for it, basically. One that is the music written for Soul in like songs, and one that is the score for Soul. This movie deserves both a score and here's full versions of all the songs that we wrote for it, performed neatly so that you can appreciate them for themselves.
Yeah. My thing with this is because it says here they use resonator guitars, which is cool to me. When you go do the Crossroad Legend, my opinions on this legend and like the vibe it gives to like Deep South black culture sometimes have changed a lot over the years. It's interesting to me to like see how much they commit to it, and I want to see this for myself just so I can voice my opinion more concisely, because this is all from someone who's an outsider of an outsider. Yeah,
definitely. I do want to give a specific shout out here to, because I don't think I mentioned it yet, but Michael B. Jordan particularly plays two characters in this movie, twin brothers Smoke and Stack, known as the Smokestack twins. And as you know, it's kind of a bit of a trope, I guess, at this point, having the one actor playing the twins kind of thing. He does it really, really well in how these are twins, but giving them their own personalities and motivations and just acting them different enough that at a glance you can be like, oh yeah, I know which one of these this guy is. Phenomenal performance from him.
I'm spoiling myself with the soundtrack at the moment.
I don't think that would spoil anything for it.
No, like,
to be clear, yeah.
The fact that you have fucking Wang Dang Doodle on here, that's amazing to me.
It's really good.
This is a fair warning to everybody. Go listen to Howling Wolf right now. There's no exceptions. We're gonna do it, Wang Dang Doodle. Yeah, that's a bop. Okay, I need to see this. Or at least listen to the soundtrack, because this is all good. This is all good shit. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Kyrol?
I think that's what I have. I do want to briefly mention how. No, actually, I have more. I'm not. I have more to say.
Go on.
I'm not going to end it there. I want to point out that while I was watching this was one of the most film movies that I have seen in a really long time. One of the movies that like makes you appreciate the medium that it's being presented in, if that makes sense. It's not pulpy, it's not poppy, it is a whole ass film, and it is really deserving of the format that this is being presented in. Yeah, it's good shit. Helps you to appreciate or contextualize some of the other stuff that comes out, because it's easy to see a run of, 7s out of 10s, 8 out of 10s, and maybe think like, oh, maybe this is a 9 out of 10. And then you see a movie like this that's like, a solid 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 easily. It's like, oh, okay, no, this is the real shit. This is good. And those other ones aren't bad, but they're not as good as they might have seemed in context to the stuff that was around them.
Interesting.
It's good shit.
Yeah. Okay. If that's all your thoughts on the film, I'm Infamous Orion, and I need to go see Sinners.
And I'm Kyrol. And I'm also a Schmo.
And this has been the Those You Schmo Show. R.I.P. Francie. Okay, I have the recording still going, but I fucking disconnected the Discord call instead of stopping the recording. I feel like I should point that out, because that's fucking hilarious and embarrassing.
I noticed that, but I wasn't going to say anything.